Welcome back to Loan Officer Success Partner. I'm your host, Devin Dubuque, and today we've got somebody pretty special. Denise Panza. Did I say that right, Denise?
You did.
With Total Mortgage, licensed in like a gazillion states, social media superstar. I got a chance to hear Denise talk a couple weeks back on the Redder Morning Show with her good buddy Scott. And I was like, man, I got to get her over here. She was just awesome on there. And Denise, I'm just so excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you for letting me come on and share and talk.
I love it. I love it. Well, you know, I know a little bit about you, but let's let the audience get to know you a little bit. Where are you from originally?
All right. Originally from Brooklyn, New York, and then grew up upstate New York.
I would have never guessed that with the accent at all.
No. Oh, you want some coffee? And I love my daughter.
I love it. I love it. So upstate New York, a little bit of Brooklyn in there, right? And is that where you are today?
I'm not. So 2.5 years ago, I decided to move to Naples, Florida. I just picked up and left everyone and everything. Wow. I did follow. So I have a 30-year-old son in Brooklyn, and then I have a 21-year-old daughter that goes to college down here. So I kind of followed her because my son really doesn't, he loves his mom, but, he's living his best life in the city. So
he's a Brooklyn boy.
Yeah, he loves it.
He loves it up there. And so you went from cold winters to a much warmer climate. What made you want to do that? You said something about your daughter going to school.
I've been coming to Naples for like 20 years because my dad has always had a place down here, so it was always my happy place. And I was living in this town called Hopewell Junction. And no disrespect to Hopewell Junction, but we all refer to it as Hopeless Junction. And it just wasn't conducive anymore. I'm like, all right, you know what? I just can't grow old here. And then when she decided to move, and she's my little best friend, I said, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put my big girl pants on, and I am gonna just sell my home, buy one in Naples, and live my best life.
I love it. Take the plunge. So what were you doing when you were in New York? Were you in the mortgage space?
Yes. So originally I went to college. So my last name is Panza. I've been Panza for 54.5 years. But I went to college in Boston at Northeastern, and I wanted to be PI Panza. I wanted to be a private investigator. I'm like obsessed with like all of that crime stuff. I do feel like as a loan officer, you do have to be a little bit of a detective.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I think you're right on the money. Yeah.
You have to ask so many questions. If
be
you don't
curious.
Ask questions, that's when the deal, goes bust. So I went to college in Boston, as I said, for criminal justice. Didn't do so well in that one major. Had to switch gears, and then I became a teacher, kindergarten through 6th grade, which also is kind of what I do, right? I teach, I educate.
Education.
Buyers, right?
Yeah.
And then I ended up moving back to Brooklyn. I wanted to teach in the inner city. Couldn't get a teaching job. Went back to Boston, thinking they'll hook me up with a job. And then I got pregnant and had a baby, and I'm like, oh my God, I need my mom. So I moved back to New York, and I needed a job. And there was still a teaching freeze, so I couldn't get a job. And then I had applied for this position as a post-closer at a mortgage company, and here I am, 30 years later, from post-closer.
There it is.
Yeah, to closer to loan officer.
So from PI to kindergarten teacher, right, to new mom or expecting mother, right? And then, Boston to New York to Boston to New York, eventually down here in Florida. And, I'm in Dallas, but you're in Florida. And you get in 30 years ago, was that like 5 years ago? Like, I don't understand. How 30, like, I don't understand. Like 30, that doesn't even make sense that you've been in the industry for 30 years. But maybe you're like Benjamin Button, you age backwards. I don't get it. But so you get in the industry as a closer, and how's that work? How does that transition you over into the origination side of the business?
So post closer, which is like really just you're a copy queen.
Yeah.
And my energy doesn't work for my energy. So then I was like, okay, what's next up? Post closer or closer, right?
Yeah.
And then from closer, it could have been a processor or an underwriter, but I just wanted to. I looked at the loan officers, and they just looked like they were like loving what they did. And sales is not my thing. I don't like rejection. First grade teacher no, I don't do sales, but I don't really feel that as a loan officer, I'm actually selling. I feel like I'm making home buyers' dreams come true. It sounds so cliche and cheesy, but it's true.
I think it is true.
Yeah. And then here I've been 28 years originating.
I love that. Well, I know you say that, you're not a salesperson, but education is sales. And I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong. I think a lot of people that think they're salespeople aren't really salespeople, right? They're order takers. When you learn your craft and you learn it really well and you're educating others, that's a true sale, right? Because you're assisting people understanding all the ins and outs so they can land on the product that's going to make the most sense for them, not just what they initially asked for. Because sometimes what they ask for, Denise, and I'm sure you'll agree with this as well, isn't the best plan for them.
I like that twist. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get over to the sales side of the business that you hate, but you're an educator, which you love, and you're a private investigator at heart. So you're genuinely curious, right? Which is a great problem to have in this industry. And how's that work out? Was it right out of the starting gate? You're just, crushing it, or what did that look like for you?
So when I was a single mom, like I said, I had like a little, I don't even know how old he was. Maybe he was not even a year. And the one company I was working for wouldn't hire me. It was like a boys club. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was not getting, they were not moving me up to be.
Sounds very New York to me. The boys club and the mortgage industry, right?
Yeah. And then my girlfriend called me and she was like, "Hey, this mortgage company in Brookfield, Connecticut, the owner says he's going to hire you." And I was like, "Really? As a loan officer?" And so I went, and it turns out that he had just his whole office had up and left and opened up their own company.
Oh,
He
no.
had nobody.
Yeah.
So he hired my ass real quick. And I was like, "I'm a loan officer." All I wanted was the title.
The title,
loan
yeah.
Officer. And then he gave me like a small base because 100% commission is scary, right?
It is.
And then I remember one day he called me into his office with two other loan officers and said, "Hey, that paycheck you thought you were getting on Friday, you're not getting it, and you're 100% commission." And that, as much as I wanted to knock him out, I actually have to thank him to this day, because if he didn't do that, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. And I've been 100% commission ever since. And I wouldn't change it for the world.
I love that. So at the time, you got a pit in your stomach. You're super angry. I'm a single mother. I've got a mouth to feed, and you're going to take my salary away. But hindsight, maybe the best gift that anybody could have given you.
It kind of was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's hard to see that sometimes.
It gave me I was like, this is it. I either go back to, working whatever, 2 full-time jobs, or I just, put my foot to the pedal and just go to town and hustle.
So he lights a fire. And how long did it take for you to really get things going when that happened?
I feel like pretty quick after that,
Sink or swim. Sometimes that's what it takes, right? I'm gonna win. I'm not gonna sink, right?
No, it's true, and I'm really competitive. So I was like really just on a mission. I'm like, this is it. I'm gonna do this.
He unleashed the beast inside. I love that. I love that. Yeah. So you get pushed in, literally pushed into the deep end, and it's okay. We got to make this thing happen. What was the first thing you did? Right? You go back to that and you go, what was the first thing you did to get the fast results?
I just remember I worked a lot. That's the one thing that my son, likes to remind me, that I wasn't there for like every game, because I wanted to give him a really good life. You know what I mean? And I just worked a lot.
But worked on what? Right? Did you have leads coming in? Did you have to go out and find that business? Like, what was that? What did that look like?
No, back then it was leads. He provided leads, and people just called the company. And then
what year was this?
Yeah, and then it was just a matter of me just telling everybody and everybody. I mean, there wasn't social media back then, but I just remember telling everyone and anyone who would listen what I did for a living.
Yeah.
And just find realtors and whoever, and my family. I was writing loans for my family all the time.
What year was this, Denise?
That would be 1996, probably.
Okay, so 96, and you're getting leads, but you're telling everybody. And again, you're right. No social media, really no cell phones back then. I mean, we had them, but they were a little fewer and farther between, right? Most people didn't have those. From what I remember, back then you were probably not using a lot of electronic processes. A lot of stuff was probably, sending paperwork out through the mail or having people come sign things face to face, right?
Everything was handwritten. Back then, like even you would meet your appraiser at the gas station, because he just went to CVS and printed 4x6s and like taped them to the appraisal report.
So literally hustling. You're out there hustling it up, but you got a mouth to feed, and you're not going to let your little boy down. And you did. And yeah, you may have missed some games, but guess what? He never had to want for anything because mom was out there doing what it took.
Correct.
Yeah, that's huge. So you learned the business the hard way, which is awesome because I think that's how we learn more from our mistakes or from the hard things that we're faced with than we learn from when things are given to us, you know? And you flash forward to today. And, you know, let's talk about that because, you know, not only, you know, have you become a master at the business, but you've also learned something that's really special. I think this is how we ended up connecting in the first place on the Redder Show, because you've really built a great presence on social media, specifically on LinkedIn. How do you do that, right? Like, how do you get present? And I'm gonna spoil this a little too, because last time we talked, you talked about how shy you were and how getting on camera, you know, can make you a little uncomfortable. But man, you're all over the place. Like, how do you do that?
But that's easy because that's just me. I'm an empty nester, right? I have a lot of free time, so it's just me and my cell phone. That's it. That's how we do the videos. That's how I do the pictures, the letterboards. So I'm comfortable with just me, you know. But and then obviously it's going to be posted on social media, but it's not like this. It's not live, like live events. Oh my gosh, don't no, never.
You killed it.
One time with your friend.
Yeah. No, you did great on that, though. You know, you did great on the show. And, you know, at the end of the day, sometimes, you know, we feel like we're not great at things, but, you know, you really are, right? Because you're a wealth of knowledge. You've been in this business for long enough. You understand it inside and out. And, you know, we're talking about a subject that you're great at, right? You know how to do this because you built a social media platform where a lot of people struggle with that, right? So how did you get started? What made you say, hey, look, I'm going to build a social media presence? Where did that come from?
Okay, so everyone was on Facebook back in the day just to have fun, right? That was how we communicated. And then I thought, all right, well, let me start talking about what I do on Facebook and on Instagram. But back then, like Facebook and Instagram, people don't want to hear Denise Panza talk about mortgages all day long, right?
Yeah, they don't want a billboard.
Yeah, they're going to block me. They're going to block me. And then I thought, okay, well, where can I go that I can do this? And I just, you know, I was on LinkedIn, right? Because everybody should have a profile on LinkedIn. I think at the time I thought it was more for where you go to get a job. So I was like, but then I started like watching people on there, and it wasn't just all about, I'm like, oh, wow, look at her and look at him and look what they're doing. And this isn't all about just looking for a job. So I'm like, and that was 8 years ago. So it took a long time to get where I am. I'm sure people can jump on tomorrow and have, you know, 50,000 followers in a week, but it took a long time, and I just had fun with it.
Yeah, but you have real followers too, you know, so at the end of the day, yeah, you can get on and build followers really fast. But at the end of the day, a lot of the times those are paid followers. Those aren't real followers. Yours are real followers. You built that. And I love that you said that, though, because some people go, man, I get on and I make these posts and it's not getting me anywhere. You know, what's funny is here you are 8 years later. I want to make sure you guys heard that 8 years later, right? And she has a huge presence and a lot of followers. So was that overnight?
No,
it was 8 years worth of working towards the goal. Yeah.
8 years.
So, and what's the benefit for you, you know, having that social media presence? Do you get any value from that? Or is it just, man, I got a lot of friends on LinkedIn?
I write so many loans from LinkedIn. That's why I have so many licenses, Deb, because I'll have like a couple will say, hey, Denise, you know, my husband and I are buying a house in Texas, or Denise, we're doing a loan in Georgia. Can you help out my mother or something? And the next thing I'm like, I'm going to get this license because that's so great, right? Like LinkedIn is just, everyone's all over the place. So I thank LinkedIn for helping me get all my licenses. But I write a lot of loans from LinkedIn.
That's awesome.
Normal people, just like me and you. They watch me on there and they're like, oh, you know what? She kind of knows what she's talking about. We need a mortgage. How about we call her?
You're building trust. You're building trust because you're consistent. You know, you're consistent with putting things out there. And at the end of the day, once somebody taps into that and they go, okay, this is a reliable source to get the media from. We always say, you know, make sure that you've got a reliable source as to where you're getting the information from, right? Because there's so many sources out there right now. And how do you know what's reliable and what's not, right? But you're qualified. You know, you've been in the industry for long enough that you understand it inside and out. You've worked from the back, literally the back side of the business, all the way to the front side of the business. And, you know, at the end of the day, you're giving out insight and information that's helpful, that people need to know, that they need to hear, and they're gaining trust because you're doing it. So what's the strategy there look like, right? Like how often do you post? How often do you record? Do you record it all at once and drip it out slowly? Do you record day to day? Like, what does that look like for you?
It is so random for me. I will do a letter board and then maybe I'll skip a day and then I'll do a video. And the video is I'm just winging it. Like literally I'll just grab my phone and think of something or maybe I was laying in bed the night before and thought like, what can I talk about tomorrow? Or something will happen on a particular loan or something. Because I don't always do mortgage stuff, which I think is really important to not always do mortgage stuff. Because again, I think people would probably keep scrolling if Denise was only talking about mortgages. I talk about real life stuff, because I want them to, get to know me because we want to work with people we like and we know and we trust.
That's
not
it.
just somebody who knows their mortgage stuff.
I love that.
I just switch it up all the time. I would like to be more consistent, at least do maybe 5 days a week would be nice.
Right.
It's hard.
It is hard. It's work. It takes work to do content, right? At the end of the day, I shoot content all the time, but luckily enough, I have a team. I got people that can actually post it for me, but I do some of my own stuff too, because you have to, because the personal stuff has to come from you, right? The things that are actually about you and about your life and the things that you're doing, that needs to come from you. That's from the heart. But then, stuff like this where I'm doing the podcast, I don't have time to do all the edit work in the background and get it out. So I've got to have somebody that can help me with those things, right? But you're correct. It is a job. Like literally every single day I'm on a call with somebody. I'm recording those things. We're turning around, we're posting that stuff out. And it becomes another part of your day. You have to schedule time in your work week to make that happen. And I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong. They're like, man, you know what? Like these people that are on social media that just got got famous real fast because they had one viral video, and that's some people got lucky, right? That not me, and clearly from what you're telling me, not you either, right, Denise?
I wish.
Yeah, it is hard work, but I think if you plan out like, hey, I've got to post at least this many times, per week or per month, and you're always, making sure that it at least has a little bit of time in your schedule, right? Because it doesn't take a ton, as long as you're consistent. It's got to be consistent, right?
It does. I tell that to everyone. I'll have people that will say, I posted a video and I got 3 likes, or I posted a video and I got 10 likes. I'm like, yeah, you posted one video. Like you need to keep on coming at us. You know what I mean? Like you got to months, at least a couple of months. And then people are like, oh, this individual is kind of cool. And then it'll kick up,
Well, I'm going to ask you this because I know it happens to me, and I'm assuming you've probably experienced this too. Do you ever have videos that you put out there, they do get posts and likes, but somebody didn't post or like it, and then you have a conversation with them like, oh, I love everything you're doing, I see it all. Do you ever have that conversation with anybody?
Where they will not like the video on the actual page, but then they'll inbox me?
Inbox you or just call you, directly, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's where the best stuff comes from, to be honest with you. I mean, those are the people that, just not everybody wants, because everybody can read what you're writing. You know what I mean? And some people have private the
DMs, yeah.
private messages, but private messages like, this is what's going on in my life. What do you think? Can you do this? Or just like, you inspired me today, and maybe they don't want, all their guy
everybody to hear their dirty laundry. Yeah.
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 So that's where the good stuff comes from.
I love that. Yeah, and I wanted to ask you that because I know it happens to me all the time. Like literally, I'll be posting stuff, and I'm not seeing some of my friends or family, or even people indirectly that I know, and then they'll run into me, or we'll pop on a phone call, and literally, it's like, man, I got to tell you, I love the content you're putting out there. Like it's really been helping change me. And some people, it's like, man, your stuff a lot is more. It's not. It's just about personal growth and like becoming a better person. And like I needed to hear that today. But they're not always going to like it. They're not always going to comment. Don't get hung up on that, right? Like, just keep going.
Well, it's true. And I'll tell you 2 really cool stories where you think people are not watching, and then all of a sudden I'm in Aruba with my girlfriend, and we're staying at the Ritz, and we're having breakfast, and all of a sudden this man comes over, and he was like, listen, you're going to think I'm crazy. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but is your name Denise, last name Panza? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I knew it. You're that girl from LinkedIn. And then he's like, the wife is like, what are you doing? And the next thing you know, we're all having drinks together. We're hanging out with the kids on the beach because they had brought their kids. It turns out they were from Saratoga, Dutchess County. Their daughter was going to Marist. Such a small world. But I'm like, I didn't know who they were. And then I'm on an airplane flying from New York to Florida. And I'm sitting over here in the front row. And this other gentleman gets on, and he's going to sit on the other side in the front row on a JetBlue flight. And he looks over, and he was like, is your name Denise, last name Panza? And I was like, it is. He's like, oh my God, I watch you on LinkedIn. Can I sit next to you? And we talked the entire flight. He lives in Westport, Connecticut. He's also in the banking industry, but on the commercial side. And friend for life. I see him. He comes down to Naples. He was here on a trip with his family. I saw the whole. It was just. It's so crazy what comes out of LinkedIn. So I didn't write a loan for either of those two people, but like I'd like to think of them as friends for life.
That's it. Well, it's connections, and it goes back to what we talk about. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. They knew you, they liked you, and they trusted you. You didn't even know them, and now you do. And now they're becoming real friends in real life, and that's such a special thing, man. I'm glad that you shared that, though, because, sometimes we may be having somebody that's out there listening to this right now, and they're like, I've been trying this thing, and, like, nobody's paying any attention to me. Maybe they are. You just don't know it yet. So don't stop because you think nobody's paying attention. You'll be amazed, that one day you bump into somebody and you hear this story and you're like, okay, I mean something to somebody, I'm making a difference in somebody's life because we are, when you're out here educating and providing that hope to some people, right? Some people need hope, they need to hear that there's somebody out there that cares about them,
Well, you're right though. Don't stop. And for me, when I'm doing the letter boards or I'm doing my videos, like, it keeps me going. Like, because I sit in my house and I just work, by myself. Actually, I will tell you that I just did get an office in Naples. So today is the lease is effective today. I actually got an office space, which is weird because I haven't done the office thing in like 20 years. I've been working from home. But you rest, you rust. So for me, like I do it. A lot of times I post for me, like it just keeps me going, it keeps me
100%.
I shower in the morning, when I know I have to actually.
I got to shoot a video. I better get cleaned up.
I work in my PJs all day, Denise. You got to do a video. You got to take a shower and, brush your hair.
I get it. Well, that's awesome. And guys, another thing I want to make sure that we're all familiar with. Denise is a producing loan originator, right? So you may look her up and see her presence and go, man, she's just a face. Because I've heard of a lot of people that, they don't produce. They literally are just out there doing, video content, but they're not actually doing the work and walking the walk, right? You're walking the walk, talking the talk. You do it all. And now you're in 15 states because you've got so many people that are reaching out to you. You're not reaching out to them. They're reaching out to you and saying, hey, I need you in Georgia. I need you in, and by the way, stay out of Texas. That's my state. JK, I think it's amazing, to have people out there that, I say this isn't competition, right? It's collaboration. There's a big enough industry out there for everybody. And I want to see you successful, even if it's right here in the state of Texas, right? Be in our backyard, but at the end of the day, like, think about that. Think about building yourself a presence where people are coming to you from other parts of the world that bump into you on an airplane or when you're on a vacation resort, because you took the time to make yourself present on social media and build a nice little career behind it that, funds a beautiful life for you, right, Denise?
Yes, I love it. I feel very, very blessed.
Yeah. Well, I feel blessed to get just a few minutes of your time today on the podcast. And I got to tell you, thank you so much for taking the time to jump on and share your story. I promise you, even if one person heard what was said today and was inspired, that's what this is all for, right? That's what it's about.
Thank you for having me, Deb.
Thank you for coming. Hey, so what did we not cover today that we should have?
I will say one thing. I shared this once before, that you can also, LinkedIn isn't only about posting and doing, the social media, but using LinkedIn as a way, like when you get a client and maybe they're rate shopping you and you want to find some common ground with them, is to go look at their profile because you never know what you're going to learn. You might, a school they went to, a job they were to, and then that one shared commonality that you have with them could be what bridges the deal together. Do you know what I mean? So
100%.
The PI piece of it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, yeah, you stalk them on LinkedIn and see, or even go to Facebook or Instagram. That works too, right? And then
it does.
You never know.
I do it every day. It's such a pro tip, right? Because what you're saying is, hey, get on some common ground so that you can share a moment with them. Because again, when you become a friend, they're not going to do business with somebody else over a couple $100 or $1,000, right? They want to work with you because you're family to them, you're friends with them, they're somebody that they trust, right? And this isn't, using this as a sly trick to break their trust. It's using it as an opportunity to build a relationship, right?
Yes.
You took the time to learn that.
Yeah, you might be friends with their cousin in Philly, but who cares? That might be enough to just be like, you know what? I'm working with you, Panza. I'm working with you, Deb.
100%. It's funny. I use that myself, and I had a situation. I do these podcasts all the time. I had a realtor I jumped on with, and I'd done a little bit of research to see where he was at. And I was like, oh, man, do you know this place in Iowa, right? When I was a kid, I used to go there with my family. And he's, oh, man, I think I was just there last week, right? And now all of a sudden we're on common ground and we're having a great conversation because we're not just talking about doing business with each other.
Yes.
We're talking about who we are as human beings, right?
I love that.
Yeah. Killer. Well, words of wisdom from Denise Panza. I'm sure we could keep you on all day because there's so many nuggets you could share, like that one right there that somebody hears and goes, man, I needed to hear that today. Right. Sure. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Denise, when the folks out there want to find you, how do they find you? What areas do you serve? I know we can't rattle off all 15 states, but if you want to hand out a few, and we'll put some in the description, and then how do they locate you?
On LinkedIn, really, just do Denise Panza. I don't know. I think there might be two other ones, but you'll see this face. Denise Panza. That's it. AskMortgageGal.com.
That's it. There it is. Find her on LinkedIn, and she's very easy to find, super present. You can probably learn a lot about her if you take a time and just run through that feed like she was talking about just a few minutes ago. And if you're looking at doing business in one of the 15 states, we know Florida at least is one of them. I think she said Texas and Georgia, so there's two more. Hey, go research her. And if she's not licensed in your state, she'll probably get licensed just to help you out. So, make sure that you reach out to Denise, man. You're going to have a great time, and you're going to meet somebody who's actually cares and wants to get to know you and build a relationship before the business, which I think is what this is all about.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think this is probably a wrap for today. So, hey, thank you guys for tuning in to the Loan Officer Success Partner. We're going to keep bringing back great guests like Denise. Might have to bring her back again for a part 2. Let us know if you want to do that. Just comment below. Hit the DMs. If you want to find Denise's information, we sent somewhere across the bottom of the screen, but also go look in the description on the podcast or on YouTube if you're over there watching the video. And if you're not on YouTube, get over there and meet Denise face to face and then find her on LinkedIn. But I think that's it. So I'm Devin Dubuque. This is Loan Officer Success Partner, and we will see you on the next